Lexi. Welcome back to another episode in the Welcome to the Wax World series. In this video, we are in a different filming location. I actually have you guys turned around so we're standing or sitting in front of my wax storage because in today's video, I'm going to be covering all things wax storage. So please bear with me because I've tried to film this video like multiple times and I am not the most eloquent person when it comes to speaking, and a lot of these types of things are kind of hard to explain, so please bear with me. I'm gonna try my best, and especially because a lot of the things that I'm going to be covering in this video are things that were like highly requested questions for me to go over. So I'm just gonna try to do my absolute best of covering everything to help you guys out. As I always say, please feel free to leave a comment below if you have a different experience. Everyone in the comment section, it's been so sweet and so helpful, and I have learned personally so many tips and tricks from you guys. So please feel free to leave all the tips and tricks you have. I find them super helpful. Okay, so before I dive into the actual storage, I think we should start at cure time. So when you first receive wax, and mostly specifically vendor wax, typically retail wax is already cured, but when you receive vendor wax, they do sometimes on the Facebook group pages or on the vendor's website, they will tell you their certain wax formula will need a length of cure time. So what cure time is the process that the wax needs to have the actual wax formula bind to the fragrance oil. So the longer that that wax is sitting in the form that it is already, made in, the longer it sits, the stronger the fragrance will become. Just get a shipment of wax from a vendor and they recommend, 2 weeks cure time, which is very typical. I would say that that's kind of like the minimum that you see. Some places don't even recommend cure time. So what I would recommend for you guys is to read whatever vendor's website, look up, or even ask the vendor, say, what is your cure time that you recommend? And they will tell you. But if you want a very general base to start at, I would say 2 weeks cure time from when you get the actual order of the wax to when you melt it for the first time. I would say that that's a good safe place to start. A lot of people, depending on how much wax you have, if you have a lot to melt through and you're not too worried, some people put it away for a few months, some people put it away for a year, and it really varies from vendor to vendor. It's gonna be really hard for me to in-depth talk about each vendor because there's also a lot of wax vendors that I haven't personally purchased from, but some vendors, their cure time definitely benefits from like a longer cure time. Some people don't need as long of a cure time. So what I would recommend for you guys is just to go onto the vendor's Facebook group page and, type in the search bar cure time. A lot of people already ask that question and you might be able to find it easily on their Facebook group page, or go on their website under the FAQ page and see if they mention it there. And if you can't find it in those different places, just reach out to the vendor and ask them because they are going to be the person that would know the best cure time for their specific wax formula. I will say, in my personal experience, what I have found is when it comes to bakery, fruity, or like fresh type wax scents that you might come across, so like a bakery, like a cookie or a cake kind of scent, or a fresh like a, salty sea air or a rain type scent. When it comes to those, typically the bakery scents are the types of scents that benefit the most from a longer cure time. And really, like, the longer you let something sit, it's not gonna hurt it. It's when you reach the 1 year point that you're kind of tipping the scale a little bit. And that's kind of when it comes to talking about shelf life. So there is kind of a fine line, and it's hard because there is so many differences from vendor to vendor. And that's why I definitely recommend researching each vendor, whoever you are going to be purchasing from, what their cure time is. I don't know if they'll say shelf life on there. I haven't really even seen many vendors talk about shelf life of their wax. But my also personal experience is that wax typically performs the best within from the first month that you get it to up into a year. Though that's kind of like the sweet spot. So once wax becomes like a year old, it's still going to perform. Most wax will still be performing, but sometimes you might see it hit the year mark and then it will start to kind of lose that fragrance oil. On the opposite spectrum, there are some vendors that it hits a year mark and it only becomes stronger. So a lot of people say the Bathing Garden needs a good long cure time and has a very long lasting shelf life. Also, Vintage Chic Scents has in my experience, it needs a longer cure time but has a very long shelf life. So there are vendors that kind of, on like the grand scheme, on the spectrum of all the wax vendors, some of them definitely fall a little bit further down the line of cure time and shelf life, and some definitely benefit from a quicker, use it up a little bit quicker. It really varies from vendor to vendor. The best thing that you can do is just research that. Try to use it up at least before the 2-year mark. Then you'll have the most bang for your buck. And you want to really, if you're going to put money into this wax, you're going to want to use it when it is at peak performance. You know what I mean? So things that can help the shelf life are things like double bagging and properly storing your wax. So when it comes to wax storage, and I did kind of touch on this in another, the past Welcome to the Wax World video, but you really, really want to make sure that you are properly bagging your wax, and specifically in polypropylene bags. You do not want to bag your wax in Ziploc bags, and I totally made this mistake when I first started melting wax. I did it all the time. I had Ziploc bags and I would melt or burn a candle, and then I'd pop out the wax at the bottom and I would put it in a Ziploc bag, having no idea that that was actually sucking the scent out of the, drawing the scent out of that wax, because the Ziploc bag is the wrong type of bag. You should be specifically using a polypropylene bag. So if you guys are looking for places where you can buy polypropylene bags, there are a few different websites you can go to. Also, a lot of vendors carry polypropylene bags. So if you are placing a wax order, you can also just kind of get a few more bags. So there is a website called clearbags.com. And if you search for polypropylene bags, I will leave a few links down below, or like how to spell polypropylene up above for you guys. But if you search that in the clearbags.com section, you can find those. Those are pretty cheap and they are, safe to use for your wax. You can also find polypropylene bags on L3 Waxing Wonders website. That is a wax vendor. You can find them on Destination Wax. They open the first of every month. They sell polypropylene bags. I want to say that Smell Good Shop, another wax vendor, she carries polypropylene bags. And another thing when it comes to storing your wax is sometimes bags, when you get shipped bags for wax from a wax vendor, you might notice some bags could come cracked or split open, and then that's when double bagging really comes into play. So if you have a few extra polypropylene bags on hand and you get an order that has a cracked bag or a broken bag, then you can literally just take that bag. If you don't want to completely rebag it, if you want the label still on there, you can just stick another bag over top of it and it will help keep your wax. Because if you have a hole in your bag or a crack in your bag or a split in your bag, that shelf life of the wax is going to dramatically decrease, because if air can get into your bags, it's just gonna suck the fragrance out. You're gonna lose fragrance because your wax needs to be sealed, airtight. So when it actually comes to storing your wax, you are going to be wanting to store your wax in a dry, cool, dark environment. You're not gonna want it open to like the sunlight, because it could possibly heat your wax, melt it, dissipate some of those fragrance oils. It could also bleach some of the color if you have really fun colored wax. It's happened to me before, but you're definitely going to want to kind of store it away. A lot of people keep them in dressers and closets. You can do like the slide out like Sterilite bins. I've seen that. What I personally use is these cube organizers. I think Target sells them. I got mine at Walmart. And they just have like these pull-out drawers. If you guys actually want to see my wax collection and storage, that video, I will like link it down below. It's on my homepage. It's like the first one that you see when you click my main YouTube page. And I have had really great experience with this organizer in particular because these actual cube bins, I break them up into scent categories. So I have 2 separate cube organizers, 8 cube organizers, and I have one that is all of my fall and winter and one that is all my spring and summer, and I kind of rotate those per season. So when we are in the spring and summer, like we are currently now, I have all of those scents out in my living room where I can easily access them, and when it is time for the seasons to switch, I will put all of those scents into my guest bedroom where I don't really often go and won't have to worry about pulling from those. And then when it comes to pulling the actual scents themselves within the season, I have them broken down into scent categories. So I have one entirely bakery bin, I have one all fruity scent bin, I have one all fresh. I have found that to be extremely helpful to break it up by scent category, just because sometimes if you put like a coffee scent, for instance, with a fresh scent, if you're storing them close to each other, sometimes the scents can kind of mingle. And then when you go to smell it in the bag, if you're, seeing if you want to melt it, sometimes that coffee scent might come across a little bit like fresh rain or minty. So kind of keeping them separated does help. When it comes to actually melting those scents, it won't make a dramatic difference. It's not like if you store coffee next to a rain scent that when you melt the rain scent, it will smell like coffee. That for the most part won't happen. But if you're smelling them in the bag, it may kind of cross the scents from bag to bag. So it won't be as authentic of a scent that you originally got. So kind of storing them within each fragrance category is a little bit helpful. So I keep all of my coffee separate because coffee is also a very strong fragrance oil note that can kind of overwhelm if you put it with other scents. All of my bakery are by themselves and fresh and et cetera, et cetera. And of course, if you guys want to go a step above, then you can double bag any of your wax, and especially if you are planning on storing things closer together. If you double bag a coffee scent and a fresh scent next to each other, that kind of intermingling of scents definitely won't occur because the double layer of the polypropylene bags. That's totally something that really, it does not make a world of a difference. But if you guys are kind of like me and you like that extra peace of mind and you like having the extra shelf life of your wax, then it can be really helpful. And I know a lot of people might look at double bagging and think that's a lot of plastic waste. But something that I personally do is when I pull my melting baskets, everything that is double bagged, I take out of the bag so I can just open one bag at a time, for the length of time that I'm using that melting basket. Then the extra bag that I have that was not touching the actual wax, it was just covering the first plastic bag, I will reuse that for a similar scent. So if I had double bagged a bakery scent, I will take that first layer off, put the actual wax in my melting basket, and the fresh bag that is untouched to wax, that was just a double bagging for the bakery scent, that will go over another bakery scent. I'm not going to put that one over like a coffee or, what I mean. I'm not going to mingle it that way, but if you kind of want to help not overuse or overbuy more plastic, if you guys are trying to be a little bit more conscious of that, then you can absolutely do that. That's what I do, and it works totally fine. If you guys are looking for really good storage options, then I would highly advise checking out the Dollar Tree. They have obviously very cheap organizing options, bins, things that you can use to kind of separate different things out within your collection. Another thing that I found to be extremely helpful are shelf lifters. So you'll often see them in cabinets for plates and cups and things like that, but you can also use those within cube organizers to have one bin of wax underneath, use a shelf lifter on top, and then sit another bin on top so your wax is not getting crushed. That's something that I have found to be extremely helpful. Another thing is if you are storing clamshells, When I go to Walmart, I know a lot of other people do this too. I know I'm not the only one, but I will buy an entire sleeve of clamshells from Walmart at a time, and I'll take that plastic sleeve with me, and I use that for storage at home, and it works amazing. Another thing that I have seen are if you can find the long, skinny kind of storage that is often used for silverware, that works amazing for clamshells as well, or scent shot cups. That's an awesome way to store that. When it comes to samples, if you guys are ever curious about that, I just have a big old bin that I literally throw all of my samples in, and then over time I'll just draw, you know, a few out and throw them into a melting basket. So there are a lot of different options, and I would love to hear the way that you guys organize your wax down below. Please share that. I would love to know. And I think that that was all that I wanted to cover with you guys today. So if you have any other questions that I did not go over, I really tried my best to cover everything that I could think of, but please leave it in a comment below. I really want to try to help you guys as much as I can. And if you guys have any tips for me, please leave them below. I love when you guys help me out. You guys are like the best people ever because I've learned so much from comments. And I just appreciate you guys so much. So that's it, you guys. I hope you're all doing well, and we'll talk very soon. Bye, guys.